Brett, it is a real pleasure to have you today. You are one of the best quarterbacks to have ever played. You played in the NFL for 20 seasons. That included 321 consecutive starts from 1992 to 2010. That is the most in league history. You are a Hall of Famer, you are a Super Bowl champion, and you are the only person to have been awarded the NFL Most Valuable Player Award in 3 consecutive seasons. You are also known as one of the toughest players to have ever played in the NFL. The first question I have for you, Brett, is why are you involved with Odyssey?
My very last play in my 20 years just happened to be a major concussion. Now, if you were to ask me how many major concussions that I have in my 20-year career, I would have told you 3, that being one of them, of course. And when I say major concussion, where I either blacked out or had memory lapses, 3 of those. But if you were to ask me how many just concussions I've had, I have no idea. So a year after I retired, I was approached by Jake Van Landingham, who had developed this concussion drug, wanted to know if I wanted to get involved. He caught me at the right time. It was something I was passionate about. Obviously, I wasn't that far removed from playing in the NFL, and my last play that I'll always remember just happens to be a major concussion. Not a good time to have one. Not that there's ever a good time. I got 3 grandsons. They're all young. The oldest is 12, the second is 7, and the third is 4 years old. They don't play football. I'm not overly excited about them participating in football, not this young. You know, and I just know the concussions are very serious. And so it made sense for me. It was perfect timing to get involved and hopefully see this through to where it can help some people.
Brett, you reminded me of that Washington Post interview you did a few years back. You said at the time that you believed that in about 90% of the tackles you'd ever been involved in, you had suffered a concussion of some sort. That would add up to thousands of concussions. You have gone on to say that your career has been both a blessing and a curse, and just now you said you're not even wanting your grandsons to get involved in football, at least at this young age where they are now. We know why it's a blessing. You're in the Hall of Fame. You're one of the greatest players to have ever played. How was it a curse?
Well, if I had to do all over again, I'd do it the same way. Don't get me wrong. My goal and dreams were always about playing professional, either football or baseball. And my first love just happened to be football. And lo and behold, I get an opportunity. And it's as far as the curse part of it, it's the injuries and the repercussions that you don't really think about at 21, not even 30, if you're fortunate enough to play that long. The thing I worry about the most in regards to injuries is what concussions will do to me after I'm done playing. The knees and ankles and hips, you can replace those and you can get those fixed, and they're nagging injuries. But we're just really scraping the tip of the iceberg of what concussions can do to just anyone, not just football players. So that's the curse part of it. There is no answer. There is no solution to concussions other than don't have any. I think recent data has said that there's roughly 70 million concussions that we know about in the world, which cost the world roughly $400 billion in healthcare. And again, that's what we know about. So the curse part of it is the unknown from injuries, most importantly, concussion.
Brett, you know, I really appreciate that thoughtful answer you just gave. Let me put you on the spot here a moment. Do you believe that children under the age of 14 should play flag football only?
I believe, without a doubt, and a lot of this came after my discussion with Dr. Benjamin Amalu, who Will Smith portrayed in the movie Concussion. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. I had a good discussion with him, and he really enlightened me on the seriousness of concussions. And he was really the first to paint the picture of when he asked me how many concussions I had. I said 3. I had 3 major concussions where I got up wobbly or couldn't remember, whatever. And he said, no, you've had thousands. He said, how many times did you see stars or have a ringing in your ears or a little woozy, but still able to play? I said, oh, doc, almost every time I was tackled. He said, that's a concussion. So we talked it further in depth, and I said, well, when is a good time to play tackle football? And he said, honestly, never. And he used this several examples that really painted the picture very clearly for me. And he said, look, I'm going to throw out a few animals. So a ram, you know, we see rams butting heads. We see a woodpecker pecking his beak against a tree or a light pole, just nonstop. He said their heads are built to basically cushion the blow. In other words, the brain does not move after the head stops. They're built for that. They don't get concussions. They're insulated for what they do. The human brain, however, when you hit head to head, or you hit your head on the turf, or you're running on the playground and you slip and fall and hit another person or whatever, the head stops, the brain continues to move. Therefore, some bruising occurs in the brain, which is a concussion. And he said the human head and brain is not built for that, regardless of age. Certainly not youth, because they're still developing in all facets of their body. It was really an aha moment for me. So I certainly believe while we as adults have the opportunity to protect our children, if everyone did away with tackle football up to the age of 14, I don't know how much we would save in regards to concussion injuries, but it's got to be pretty astronomical. And why not do that? I'm not doing it for any other reason but to protect our youth.
Brett, what therapies or drugs have you used to help with the long-term effects of those concussions?
I have used zero. To my knowledge, there's really nothing out there. In fact, when Jake and I first had this discussion about the concussion drug that he had developed and was going to try to push through the FDA, I said, is this something that could help me presently? You know, I had a concussion 1.5 years ago. And he said, no, this is for right when you have a concussion. The quicker you can get it into the brain, the better. For you, there's nothing. And I'll take that even further. Dr. Julian Bells, who also was portrayed in the movie Concussion by Alec Baldwin, who was at one time was a team doctor for the Steelers. Once he left the Steelers, after I retired, he reached out to me. I did not know him other than his portrayal in the movie, and wanted to know if I would be part of a study at University of UCLA in which they were basically trying to determine how much tau protein was in the brain of a living football player. He said all of our studies in deceased football players who either killed themselves, died tragically, there was signs of tau protein. I said, well, hold on, wait a minute, doc. What is tau protein? He said, every human has it. Elevated levels are an indication of head trauma. All these players that we've studied, these deceased players, had elevated levels of tau protein. And he said, so we want to see living specimens if there's elevated levels. He said, I assume that you would have elevated levels of tau protein. I said, okay, if I do, then what? Do you have something that can lower it? He said, I do not. There is nothing out there. And I said, well, I'm going to respectfully decline to do it, doc. And I said, and here's why. I'd rather not know. because every time I forget something or lost the remote control or the keys to my car or can't remember where I parked, am I going to say, oh, I got CTE? That very well may be true, but I'd rather not know. There's no solution, so I'd rather not know. And he completely understood. So to answer your question, I haven't taken anything. And really, I just go day to day, year to year, hoping that the repercussions from concussions are not as serious as they've proven to be.
Very moving, Brett. Let me turn now to your involvement with Odyssey. What has compelled you to get involved with Odyssey and that drug PRV-002?
Yeah, well, obviously being involved on my end means nothing scientifically. That's not my job. I got involved prior to Odyssey acquiring the drug and did a lot of press, much like this now, either in person, been to New York, been to Atlanta, different places across the country, Miami at the Super Bowl, basically bringing awareness to what we potentially have. Now, bringing awareness does not make the FDA approve this drug. We have to go through the certain steps and protocols in which, and I've learned a lot with that. But I'm passionate about seeing something change so many lives in the game I love. Who knows? I may coach, at some point. As I say that, right now I have no aspirations whatsoever, but who knows? I would love to know that there's a solution for concussions other than we got to change rules. We got to get better helmet. And quite frankly, if my grandkids decide to play, I wouldn't cringe. Well, I probably would cringe every time they were tackled, but it's something I'm very passionate about and want to see through to the end.
Brett, as we wrap up today, I want to know, what have the lasting effects been of the concussions that you yourself have suffered and what you have observed in others?
Well, knock on wood, I can't really complain because I'm not real sure. I think one of the things that served me well throughout my career was my memory. I remembered plays, I remembered past defenses, things that we did strategically, maybe in week 1 that served me well in week 16. And I found that here the last several years, I see a face that I know that person very well. To give you an example, last year we had the 20-year anniversary of our Super Bowl win in New Orleans, somewhere around week 6 in Green Bay last year. And 35 of the 52 or 53 players came back for it. I bet half of them, I knew the faces, but I could not remember the names. And things like that, forgetting words that are very easy words, seems like the easier words are harder to come by than the harder words. And I write it off as, they say when you get to 50, your eyes go bad, everything else falls apart. So that's what I attribute it to. But I wonder. Now, friends that I've had, teammates that I've had are a little more serious. Consistent headaches, neck pain. Some have resulted in some type of surgery. I, on the other hand, probably should be in the same position that they're in, but at this point, I'm not. So I consider myself very lucky at 52.
Brett, this has been a very moving experience. I am deeply impressed by your thoughtfulness, your introspection, and your honesty to come out and talk about the things that have affected you. And I am very impressed by your involvement with Odyssey. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Craig.